It's yet another day on Sports Connect with your number one host, Hedel Ibrahim Sani. Do not forget to subscribe, like, share on BOM, that is on YouTube. We are back here with exclusives in the world of sports, and so far as football is concerned, we will be bringing you back to back details. The World Cup has concluded. We have a new champion in La Roja. After 2010, they have won it again. Also, there were some few records in this year's World Cup, and we'll be bringing you all. The transfer news has now begun. Let me say it has now begun because because of the World Cup, it was not going as expected. But teams have now started doing businesses. We'll be bringing you all on Sports Connect in today's edition. Now, let's move on very quickly with the World Cup. After the World Cup, we got some 1, 2, 3 records. Do not forget that La Roja of Spain won by 1-0 in the 106th minute, courtesy Ferran Torres, to clinch the trophy for Spain in this year's World Cup, beating Messi's Argentina. Jude Bellingham, the English international, has now become the third player with highest goals in the history of the World Cup as a midfielder. So after Diego Armando Maradona and Brazil's legendary Rivaldo, Jude Bellingham now sits third with 7 goals. So that is one beautiful record for Jude Bellingham. Now with Kylian Mbappé Lutin, he won the Golden Boot in this year's edition, winning it for the second time in a row. After 2022, he has won it again this year, scoring 10 goals and providing 4 assists. Also, Michael Olise ended with highest assists in this year's World Cup with 7 assists, overtaking Brazil's Pele's 6 assists in a single tournament. So what it means is that it was record upon record upon record. Barcelona's Pau Kubasi won the young player of the tournament, while Spain's goalkeeper Unai Simon also won the best goalkeeper or the Golden Glove in the tournament with 7 clean sheets, also becoming a record in the history of the World Cup. No goalkeeper has kept that amount or the number of clean sheets. Now, when we move on to Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante, after winning the UEFA Champions League with Manchester City, also winning the Ballon d'Or, Rodrigo has now completed football by also clinching the World Cup, and that is one of the news that we have for you. When we go to the coaches, they've been so far so very good. Other national teams are changing coaches, and last week Le Bleu of France have confirmed that Didier Deschamps is leaving his role, and now it is Zinedine Zidane who is taking in charge of the France national team. When you go to Germany, to Jurgen Klopp is replacing the young coach Julian Nagelsmann after Germany was knocked out in this year's World Cup by Paraguay. Also, Croatia has appointed Slavan Bilic, the former West Ham coach, to take over their national team. On the part of Belgium, Mark van Bommel will be taking in charge of the Belgium national team. Now, let's move on to the Ballon d'Or. Now, when we go to the Ballon d'Or, the season has automatically ended because the Ballon d'Or category starts from August and ends in July. So what it means is that every other thing that all players have to do has now come to an end. And what it means is that now we have Kylian Mbappé Lutin, Harry Kane, Lionel Andre Messi Cucitini, Lamine Yamal Ebana Nazraoui, and Rodrigo Cascante, who are leading the charge so far. Kylian Mbappé last season's honors were solely individual, winning the Golden Boot in the World Cup, in La Liga, and the UEFA Champions League. He also scored around 40 plus goals. Harry Kane won the Bundesliga, bronze in the World Cup, and also over 70 goals contribution for the Bavarian giant Bayern Munich. Also, Lionel Andre Messi Cucitini, after his solid display in this year's World Cup, scoring 8 goals and assisting 4, he is also now in the conversation to win the Ballon d'Or. Lamine Yamal Ebana Nazraoui winning the La Liga with Barcelona and World Cup. We didn't see the Lamine Yamal we know in this year's World Cup, but these are so far the people who are the front runners. Do not forget that this year's Ballon d'Or will happen on the October 26th in London. That is to mark the winner of the first ever Ballon d'Or, which is Stanley Matthews of Blackpool in 1956. That is the English international. So the Ballon d'Or will be 70 years this year. So they will be, instead of France, or instead of the awards being held in France, it will now be in England this year. Now let's move on to the world of transfer. So far as the transfer is concerned, Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante has made it clear to Manchester City, even after Manchester City since April are willing to offer him a contract extension and increment in his salary to become the second highest paid player in Manchester City, just behind Erling Braut Haaland. He is still adamant he wants to return to Spain and play for Real Madrid. Florentino Perez is now becoming the stumbling block simply because during this year's election for Madrid's presidency, his opponent, which was Riquelme, also promised that he will be signing Rodrigo Cascante for Real Madrid when he wins. So Florentino Perez thinks it is a political signing, but the Real Madrid board really needs it. Real Madrid will push to sign him because he has given Real Madrid the assurance that he wants to play for them no matter what. And Barcelona are also monitoring it because Barcelona want to create the Spanish midfield of Rodri, Pedri and Dani Olmo. So they are waiting. That is his agent, who is Pablo Beccaro, will be meeting with Deco this week. But let's see as to how Florentino Perez will put ego aside and get him. Honestly speaking, Real Madrid really need Rodrigo. The likes of Jude Bellingham, Eduardo Camavinga, Aurelien Tchouameni, Arda Güler are all there, but with the addition of Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante, it will really improve the Real Madrid's team. Now let's move on to Barcelona. It is still Julian Alvarez after signing Anthony Gordon for 80 million and Karim Adeyemi for 29 million plus add-ons. Bayern Munich or Barcelona are now chasing Julian Alvarez, and yesterday the news or the report we are having is that they have an alternative now, which is Mikel Oyarzabal of Real Sociedad. In case they do not get Julian Alvarez, they will be visiting that deal. Now Spain's centre-back Aymeric Laporte, led by Pau Kubasi, Lamine Yamal, Pedri Gonzalez and the likes of Barcelona players in the Spain national team, they are pushing the Barcelona board to create that partnership of Pau Kubasi and Aymeric Laporte by signing him. Barcelona are preparing a 3-year contract for Aymeric Laporte, also trying to pay him 12 million a year, unlike the 10 million he is taking. So let's see how that news will also be coming up. Real Madrid, so far as the transfer news is also concerned, are still chasing Michael Olise, but as to how Bayern Munich will release him for Real Madrid, we will see. But Florentino Perez has made it clear that for the money, it is not a big deal. It is up to Bayern Munich's sporting directors to agree to it that they will release Michael Olise. Michael Olise is also saying he is not going to push for a transfer request. If Bayern Munich are willing to sell him, then he will move. Now let's move on to Arsenal. After missing out on Morgan Rogers to Chelsea, Arsenal first bid 60 million to Newcastle for Bruno Guimaraes, the Brazilian international. But when they met Ross Wilson, that's Newcastle sporting director, he did not agree and that he wants more, or Bruno Guimaraes will stay at Newcastle. Arsenal are preparing a bid in the region of £80 million for Bruno Guimaraes. We'll be following that news very well, and we'll give you all details in that story. Now let's look at Bayern Munich. They have met FC Barcelona to discuss Jules Koundé, the Barcelona or the French right back who plays for Barcelona. Now Barcelona are saying if Bayern Munich can offer as much as £50 million, then Jules Koundé will be released to join Bayern. So this week, Bayern Munich will meet Jules Koundé and his representative to discuss and be able or try to convince him to join them. Now, after World Cup, Liverpool and Paris Saint-Germain are now following Ferran Torres of Barcelona. Remember, if Barcelona remains or try to extend his contract, what it means is that Barcelona will have to pay 10 million to Manchester City as part of the contract they signed. So let's see if Barcelona will give him that contract extension. Just in, Aston Villa have signed Alejandro Garnacho from Chelsea, and it is a here we go from Fabrizio Romano, loan plus obligation deal to make it permanent for 4 years. Let's look at how Alejandro Garnacho will also perform for Unai Emery and Aston Villa. Aston Villa are also chasing Nicolas Jackson of Chelsea, and Chelsea are requesting £65 million to release Nicolas Jackson. Now, when we move on to some Ghana transfer, Fatal Ishaku has joined Ipswich Town in the Premier League from Leicester City. That is also a very good news for the Ghanaian international who will now be leaving Leicester, or who has now left Leicester City from Premier League 2 to the Premier League to play for Ipswich. Now to Chelsea, Xabi Alonso is still leading the charge for the Chelsea team so far as the job and the Chelsea team is concerned, and the preseason is going on so well. Yesterday, Chelsea announced Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa for a record fee of £117 million from Aston Villa. It now becomes Chelsea's most expensive signing in the history of the club after Moises Caicedo, who was signed £115 million, Enzo Fernandez £106 million. Now, Morgan Rogers has overtaken that by being the highest or most expensive signing in Chelsea's history, with £117 million move from Aston Villa to Chelsea. Yesterday he was unveiled and he will wear the iconic jersey number 17 that Eden Michael Hazard wore when he was first signed to Chelsea from Lille. Now Chelsea are also following Maxence Lacroix of Crystal Palace, and as I speak to you, Crystal Palace are taking nothing less than 65 million. As to how Chelsea will pay that amount, we will be following that news. John Stones has also emerged as a shock target for Chelsea in the last 24 hours, and Chelsea are trying to look at the situation and see if they can sign John Stones. Chelsea also had 64 million rejected by Bournemouth for their English midfielder Alex Scott, and then Chelsea will be going big again, as Fabrizio Romano said yesterday, that Chelsea will be going very big in the midfield. Now it is Alex Scott of Bournemouth, Adam Wharton of Crystal Palace, and Bruno Guimaraes of Newcastle that Chelsea will likely sign one. Roma are in for Crescenzo Somerville of West Ham, and what the Saudi Premier League or the Saudi Pro League does best. Yesterday, Al Hilal have submitted a money in the region of 80 million for West Ham, or to West Ham for Crescenzo Somerville. Now they are waiting for the player or the player's green light to proceed with the medical and signing. Now Tottenham have confirmed that Christian Romero will be leaving the club 100%. Now Chelsea, Atletico de Madrid, Inter Milan and Barcelona are all monitoring the situation very well. Now AS Roma are also following Chelsea's Axel Disasi, and Chelsea wants nothing less than 25 million. Remember, AC Milan are also interested. Just this afternoon, away from the transfer news, CAF President Patrick Musepe has confirmed that next year's AFCON 2027 will be moved from 24 teams to 28, which he just confirmed for all of us now. Now let's move on to the last story for today, and we will be ending with Bayern Munich's new signing, Ismail Saibari. So I want us to end with Ismail Saibari's story for today, which is very, 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 very sad. Bayern Munich have unveiled Ismail Saibari, and he will be wearing the jersey number 34. Under normal circumstances, the jersey number 11 is there and other jersey numbers, but he chose jersey number 34 because of this news. So the jersey number 34 has a reason, and it is deeper. According to Ismail Saibari, the 34, and I quote, the number 34 shirt has very special meaning to me. It is a tribute to my friend Abdelhak Nouri, who suffered a collapse on the field during a friendly match between Ajax and Werder Bremen in July 2017. He survived, but since then, he hasn't been able to move without assistance. And I honor him by wearing the shirt. So what happens is that during a preseason match between Ajax and Werder Bremen in 2017, his friend, that is Abdelhak Nouri, suffered or collapsed to a cardiac arrhythmia, and because of that, it changed everything. And the 20-year-old player, who was very sensational during that year, that is the Ajax team of 2017, which had Lasse Schöne and Frenkie de Jong, also the likes of Dusan Tadic, Hakim Ziyech, Andre Onana, and the likes. He was also one of the players who were part. But after the collapse, he has now suffered severe and permanent brain damage. And this is a tribute that he is paying to his friend Abdelhak Nouri. This is a very sad news, but we should always remember that football is always beyond the 90 minutes on the pitch. This is a very touching story from Ismail Saibari. On that note, we will bring an end to today's edition. This is Sports Connect. This is Hidal Ibrahim Sani. This is BOM. Do not forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, tell a friend to tell a friend. We are out.